Oh. Oh. Hello there. That's Detective Bad, but who's he with? I've never seen that officer before. So did you find it? No, not yet. And I've looked everywhere. I see. Well then, please continue with the series. Understood. I'll continue to search. Heh. So you're the one running around this shuttle. Prosecutors like you shouldn't even be allowed into crime scenes. How dare you? Just who do you think you are? What was that all about? And who was that man just now? Whoever he was, I've never seen a more impudent officer in my life. Does he even know that we're standing right here behind him? I know you're standing right behind me. What do you want, kids? Looks like you were paying attention after all. Of course I was. I have eyes in the back of my head. Ah, so the mirror isn't for vanity's sake. It's for him to keep an eye on who or what is behind him at all times. So tell me, Detective Bad, who was that rude man just now? The guy came here from Republic of Zangfa. He's trying everything he can to revive the lost honor of his family. He's traveling the world, studied different philosophies of detective from scratch. By visiting various police departments around the world, he has a lot of dedication. He's still just a rookie cop, but I sense a strong grudge absorbed from him. Guys, more useful than gumption. Even if he is rude. Well, he sure has a lot of guts to come to this country and give the prosecutor a hard time. I agree. However, I can think of one young lady that his statement also applies to. Anyway, what was that agent looking for, Detective Bad? Earlier, that little girl was poking around in lobby number 1 as well. Like I said before, I ain't got nothing to do with the two of you. I highly doubt that has nothing to do with me. Fine. If this is a game I must play, then I will take this opportunity to draw out what he's been hiding and have me in this room straight from him. Earlier, you were in lobby number 1, and now you're here in lobby number 2. You're quite a busy man, Detective Bad. Multiple turns to a crime scene bring about success. That's what we detectives say. I see. In that case, you wouldn't mind if I asked you about what happened again, correct? I don't have anything left to say to you, boy. Boy, I will draw my answer from you one way or another. Would it kill you to help us even a tiny bit in our investigation? I gave Faraday's notebook to the judge earlier. That's help enough, don't you think? Please, we're asking you for just a bit more of your cooperation. Don't push me, kid. I'd like to ask once again about what happened around here at the time of the crime. I refuse to answer. Any more investigating you do would be a waste of time. Besides, how am I supposed to answer questions about things I don't know about? Do you really not know about them? Things you don't know about? Are you supposed to know anything? You should. Wait, is it possible? Maybe he doesn't know about the trick that's behind the piece of evidence. I should try showing it to him. It may prove to be the key to getting some answers from Detective Bad. Detective Bad, do you know about the existence of this item in the photograph?
Of course I did. It's my job to know everything related to the Yatagaru case.
In that case, let me ask you something. Did you know that the knife that killed Mr. Faraday is this Yatagaru's key? Or one and the same?
What? That's impossible.
It looks like he didn't know after all. This piece of evidence, which we call the Yatagaru's key, is actually a well-camouflaged knife. Mr. Faraday was planning to use this Yatagaru's key to prove that Mr. Rel was not the real Yatagaru. Isn't that correct?
I guess so.
However, Mr. Faraday had no idea it was in fact a knife.
Yeah, I have to admit, neither one of us knew that fact. And if either of us knew, then no one in the law enforcement knew either. How did we miss something as big as this?
I noticed that since a little while ago, you appear to be searching for something. I presume that this key is what you've been searching for?
Yeah, that's right.
And why were you searching for it?
Because I promised Faraday. Promised that I'd protect the key with my life. But after he was killed, the key disappeared from Faraday's evidence bag. Who would have thought that the key was what took Faraday's life?
Detective Bad. So that we may find the truth, please testify for me once more.
Alright. But it doesn't matter how many times I tell you about what happened. Nothing will change.
Detective Bad. I ask that you please testify once more about what happened in lobby number 2 and what you experienced in lobby number 1.
My answer's still the same. This is the last time I'm going to do this.
That's fine, because I only need this one time to clear everything up and find the truth behind this case. See, I was in lobby number 1 talking with Miss Yu.
We were talking about some trivial things. Heard a gunshot right before the trial was about to reconvene. When I heard it, you and I immediately dashed out into the hallway together. So gumshoe goofing around there, and we all ran into lobby number 2.
It sounds like the exact same story he told us before. Indeed. However, I feel that we have yet to draw out all the information that we can. Maybe we ask about the trivial stuff. I was hoping you could expand on what exactly you were discussing with Miss Yu.
Trivial stuff was nothing important.
That's for me to decide. Alright, I suppose that's for him to decide. Moving on then. Edgeworth, you gave up way too easily there.
Hold it!
Until you heard gunshots, did you notice anything else that was out of the ordinary?
I didn't hear any strange sounds until that gunshot.
The gunshot Detective Bad heard was really the one from the murder. Give the other piece of evidence an entirely different meaning. I ask that you please amend your testimony to that with that statement just now. Uh-huh. Didn't hear any strange sounds until that gunshot. do we present the balloon piece? Because the balloon popping maybe could have been what it was.
Hold it!
Detective Bad, you honestly don't remember hearing anything else.
Yeah.
Is it possible that you were so involved in your conversation that you missed something?
I've been a detective for a long time, and even if I were involved in some, got quite the habit of keeping tabs on everything that goes on around. If there had been some other strange sound, you can be sure I would have heard it.
I suppose with this detective, that's probably very likely.
So the gunshot.
Oh yeah, it is going to be the balloon. He didn't hear any strange sounds. He should have heard the balloon popping.
Objection!
Detective Bad, does this balloon fragment remind you of anything?
It's the same color as the one K was holding.
Oh, so you knew about that girl's balloon?
Yeah. I was sitting with her up in the gallery during the recess, just before we split up. I filled that balloon up for her.
Well, as you may have already surmised, the piece did indeed come from Cave's balloon.
So, what about the balloon?
I wonder if you might remember hearing this balloon pop at some point.
What are you getting at?
This fragment was found in the hallway right in front of lobby number 2. Furthermore, the sound of the balloon popping at it was the sound of this balloon popping that the judge mistook for a gunshot.
Oh, so that's the sound the judge heard. Was not actually a gunshot, huh?
On top of that, His Honor said that he heard the balloon pop, about 20 minutes before the trial was to reconvene. Yes, which means that His Honor heard the balloon pop in the hallway, when you were in lobby number 1, Detective Bad. And if you were in lobby number 1 at the time, you were close enough that you could have heard the balloon popping as well.
So?
What? Don't give me a so. We just proved that there is a flaw in your testimony.
The crackling of the truth is louder than the sound of your sweet naivete crackling. Since you kids don't seem to know, let me fill you in on some. Did you ever stop to think why the doors and walls of this place seem so rugged? That's because they were designed to keep secrets from being leaked.
What is that supposed to mean?
Doors and walls are super thick. The window panes are double layered. And to top it off, curtains are made of special sound-absorbing material.
Then you mean that creates a new contradiction. That creates a new contradiction right there. If the walls are sound absorbing, he shouldn't have heard a gunshot.
Since I was shut up inside lobby number 1, there was no way I could have heard that sound.
No.
I knew that's what he was going to say.
Then that means Scruffface's testimony is completely useless. The rooms are soundproof, and of course he wouldn't hear any sign of a struggle. No. Francisca, no. This is big problem. Big problem.
That's also why it's only natural that I didn't hear the balloon pop. Now do you get it, kids?
Miles, I thought we were supposed to be the ones finding flaws in his logic. Not the other way around. The other way around. It's not possible to hear the sound of a balloon popping if it were in lobby 1. However, if we examine the situation in reverse, the person standing in the hallway should not be able to hear the real gunshot either. Yet Detective Gumshoe claims to have heard it while he was standing in the hallway. Detective Bad. If that is the case, how exactly did you hear the gunshot?
What do you mean, how? I just did. It would appear that you have yet to realize the contradiction in your own words. Oh, how so? If the rooms are soundproof as you say they are, then how did the sound of the gunshot enter your ears? I see what you mean. Guess I'm more out of it from Faraday's murder than I had thought.
Which means what exactly, Miles? In the end, what does it all boil down to?
It boils down to this. There must be a reason. As to how Detective Bad and Gumshoe heard a gunshot that theoretically they couldn't have.
The windows are open. That's probably how the sound traveled.
The state of the crime scenes. Wait, can it be?
Way too noisy. Lobby number 2's... The gunshot was the video! The gunshot came from the video. The gunshot that they heard was the video playing. That's why the video disappeared. The video is in the TV right now. Ha! Yeah, it's 100% with you. 100% done deal. It's her. Get it out of here. Done freaking deal. It's her. This surveillance video. The piece of evidence just disappear. To where? Simply not possible for the killer to have escaped through the barred window. And yet the fragrance of the perfume managed to escape from defendant lobby number 1. Of course, incorporeal things can often move freely through open barred windows. No? So we would want these two then. Now then, what else besides the smell can go in and out of an open barred window? The answer is sound. No matter how careful the killer was, if the window was open, the jig would be up. And the windows in both the defendant lobby and number 1 and the hallway were open. That explains how the sound of the gunshot could be heard in both locations. The missing piece of evidence is a video that shows the moment in which Mr. Rell killed the embassy staff member. The sound of a gunshot left quite an impression on me when I played it during the trial. The video should have been returned to Mr. Faraday's evidence bag for the recess, and brought back here. If it disappeared after that time, then it's possible that the tape is here inside this room. Eureka. The evidence that the missing evidence created for me. It's a gunshot sound that no one should have been able to hear in the first place. Miles, what have you been thinking about? Stop wasting time thinking and let's start looking again. It's not a waste of time to think, for I have figured out where I should look. And where would that be? I believe we should examine the television.
TV? Well, you kids have fun. Go ahead and examine whatever you like.
It's a video player, and there seems to be a videotape inside. It looks like it. The tape must have stopped on its own when it reached the end. This tape. Could it not be the missing surveillance tape? I suppose, but... Detective Bad, would it be alright if you verified the contents of the video?
Sure, knock yourself out.
Alright, let's rewind and see what we have.
If I remember correctly, the footage of the Rel killing was an embassy staff member. Should be about 30-minute mark from the start of the tape.
Understood. This should be about right. Now then, let's see. This is the footage of Mr. Rel shooting the embassy staff member. I knew it. The missing piece of evidence of surveillance video was Hiro alone.
The sound.
What's the meaning of this? It appears that Detective Bad has figured out the true source of the gunshot he heard. With this, I think we can figure out the trick behind this double murder. Do you mean you figured it all out then? Yes, all I have to do now is show what the Detective Bad and Gumshoe heard was, and through where they heard it from. Fine. In that case, show me what you've deduced. Show what they heard was and where it came from.
Eureka!
The door and windows to the crime scene, namely this room we're in, were closed. The killer could have used a gun, and no one could have been the wiser. That's true. The courthouse does seem to be well designed for such a thing, as it were. However, what happened in reality was... Detective Gumshoe, Detective Bad, and Miss Yu. All three of them heard the gunshot. While the windows in lobby 1 and 2 and the hallway were open. So naturally, the people in those locations could hear it. But then why would the criminal open the window in the first place? To allow the gunshot to be heard, I suppose. Correct. That's the only logical conclusion we can draw from this. But why was that necessary in the first place? To create an alibi! That's why she freaking did it, to create an alibi! I want real answers, Miles. I demand satisfaction. Very well. I believe that the killer wanted to manipulate our perception of a certain fact. What was it the killer wanted to manipulate in our perception of? When the crime took place. The killer wanted to fabricate the time of death to their precise wishes. And they used a gunshot in the surveillance video to do so. So that's why the tape was left running?
You mean the gunshot I heard was from this video?
Yes, which means that the murders really occurred at an earlier time than we thought. Must have been during the recess, but before Detective Gumshoe was on guard duty. Someone who had no alibi for that time period. And planned for this crime out in advance. Yes! That person is the real killer.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes, what is it?
Miss Yu is asking for you. She's in the courtroom. says she's identified the murderer, but that she wants to clarify something. Looks like Miss Yu is still investigating something.
It looks like Miss Yu is still investigating something.
Understood. Please tell her I will be right over. I'll come along. I want to hear what she has to say. It would appear that the time has come to uncover the truth.
What are you doing here, girl?
Okay, what are you doing here?
Oh, hello, mister. I'm still investigating.
But the object you're looking for has already... Okay, don't mind him. Please continue with your investigation.
Okay, you got it.
Detective Bat, haven't we already found what you were looking for? If it means I can keep her in the dark just a little longer, any task will do.
Oh, so you're more sympathetic than I thought. I've been waiting for you, Edgeworth. I've also been waiting for the moment in which we can finally lay this case to rest. The moment in which we can finally lay this case to rest? Wasn't that when we placed Detective Gumshoe under arrest? I think we've more than solved this case already. We'll see. It all depends on whether or not your logic holds. Oh, I see. Yeah, we even have a viewer in the gallery, and why, even Mr. Bat is here.
Who's in the gallery?
A viewer in the gallery? I'm hardly just a bystander.
Oh, she's referring to Princess Sky. I have a duty to see this case through to an end, no matter how it turns out.
Oh, is that right? Anyway, I thought you might like to hear what I've slaved away to find out. I've taken statements on every single person's movements during the time when our suspect was in the hallway. I've confirmed there is no possible route of escape from lobby number 2. Therefore, the killer, without a doubt, must be Detective Gumshoe.
And that's all you have?
Yeah, that's all there is to my conclusion, and this case.
Sorry, but I beg to differ. In a trial, there is always time for rebuttal, and we are standing in a court of law. It would be more than appropriate to follow the rules of the court in this case, don't you think?
How exactly like a rookie to say such a thing. But alright, I'll play along and give you a proper testimony.
If my logic is correct, then I've already won. All I have to do now is prove it, by showing who the real killer is.
Everyone, Sans the suspect has an alibi for when the gun went off. Furthermore, the areas around the crime scene have been thoroughly investigated, right? Also, I confirmed that there's no possible escape route from lobby number 2. Which leads us to one unshakable conclusion, that Detective Gumshoe is the killer. I think I need to press that second to last statement. Now that you have your testimony, I expect a good rebuttal, Edgeworth.
But of course, there's no need to confront her logic head-on right now. I should instead focus on drawing out any trump cards she has up her sleeve.
Hold it!
Are you absolutely positive there is no possible routes of escape?
Of course I'm sure.
And why are you so certain?
This is a courthouse. the place where criminals are brought to be judged. If there was an escape route, I'm sure every criminal would be using it to escape. It's just common sense. Miles Edwards, I suggest you use a bit more of it in the future.
Hold it!
You may think it's unshakable, but to me, there are still too many unanswered questions. For example, who was it that placed the gun in Mr. Faraday's hand?
Well, you're the only one that's still wondering that.
Detective Gumshoe probably had no idea which hand Mr. Faraday used to write with. Even if you know someone, it doesn't mean you'll know which hand they write with, right? I mean, I certainly don't care about that sort of thing. I'm not about to let her get a rise out of me with such a flippant statement. Besides which, my first order of business is to press more information out of her. Okay. You press her other statements.
Hold it!
The suspect, but I thought that Detective Gumshoe's alibi had already been proven.
Are you joking, Edward?
I assure you, this is no joke.
Look, I know you heard from the judge earlier that a detective was in a hallway with Mr. Faraday's daughter eating a Swiss roll.
Yes, that is correct.
But see, that was 20 minutes before the real gunshot went off. And the problem is, there's no one else who can corroborate what he did since that snacking.
I see she's done her research well, which means that I should focus on drawing out whatever trump cards she was holding.
Hold it!
Whether they have been thoroughly investigated or not is for me to decide.
The scrunched eyebrow lined as your forehead are back. Anyway, if you believe that it hasn't been exhaustive, this crime scene, lobby number 2, has no way out other than the hallway Detective Gumshoe was standing in. And because he claimed to be there, that makes him the only possible suspect.
Isn't it also possible that someone escapes through a window in the garden?
That would be the first place everyone looked, silly. The police aren't a bunch of lazy bums. They look into every possibility, you know. Isn't that right, Mr. Bad?
Yeah. There wasn't a scrap of evidence to suggest that someone used one of the windows. There also weren't any footprints or anything in the courtyard garden. I suppose they really did check everything that could be relevant to the case. I suppose we've really reached the end now. I already have my trump card ready. All that remains is to play it. But before I do, I think I should inquire a little something about her argument. You said earlier that you confirmed the alibis of every person other than the suspect. However, I don't recall either Francisco or myself speaking to you about the subject.
Ah, but there were witnesses. For you, there is your mentor who gave you an alibi.
I see.
As for the little Missy, she came to the courthouse during the recess and was stopped by a security guard at the door to the hallway. She gave him quite a whipping for that, so I heard. I am the daughter of friend Manfred von Karma. I will not be forcibly stopped by a guard or a bailiff or anyone else.
Wait, so basically the only reason Francisca bothered to show up today was because she found out that I was to be the replacement prosecutor. By the way, Miss Yu, what about everyone's alibis before Detective Gumshoe was assigned to the guard duty?
What about them?
Have you looked into what people were doing during that span of time?
What kind of idiot do you take me for? It doesn't matter when the killer went into the lobby number 2. Doesn't matter when the killer went into lobby number 2. From the time we heard the gunshot to the time Mr. Bad and I arrived on scene, we dashed from lobby number 1. The only person who could have committed the crime was Detective Gumshoe.
Yes, let's talk about when you and Detective Bad heard the gunshot, shall we? I suppose that if we go by your logic, then Detective Gumshoe is the only one. However, if the crime had occurred at an entirely different time than when that gunshot you heard went off, what then? The gunshot was a trap meant to manipulate our perception.
Sadly, your explanation is very lacking, Edgeworth. The gunshot you heard in Lobby 9, care to explain how that could have been fabricated?
Take that!
That tape?
Yes, it's exactly what you think it is. This is the surveillance tape of Mr. Rell, the prosecution presented in today's trial. This video was found loaded in the video player in Lobby 2. That was connected to a large television that had the volume turned all the way up.
You can't honestly mean that the sound we heard was a gunshot in the video.
But I do, which leads me to my next point. The murders occurred much earlier than when anyone heard the gunshot.
That's the only thing I can think of too.
After committing a double homicide, the killer took the surveillance video out from Mr. Faraday's evidence bag, turned the television's volume all the way up, and left the video play. If played from the beginning, it would take 30 minutes from the gunshot to sound to come on. And since we now know that this method of time manipulation is possible, it opens up the possibility that the killer is someone other than Detective Gumshoe.
Objection!
Sounds from a television don't amount to much here. But of course, Mr. Prosecutor Edgeworth and Little Miss Von Karma already knew that much from the very beginning, right? Of course we knew, didn't we, Miles?
Yes, of course. We know about the soundproof quality of this courthouse's rooms. Of course, I'm not about to admit that we had no idea until a little while ago.
That's right. If the rooms are soundproof, then we should not have been able to hear it. And yet we heard a gunshot clear as day.
And
that's it. End of story.
But it's not. How should I explain why she's able to hear a gunshot from the soundproof? There is actually one common point between lobby number 1 and lobby number 2. And it is that despite the fact that both rooms have air conditioners installed, a window was open in each. Now, we know that the window in lobby number 2 was opened by the killer. However, a window in lobby number 1 was also open.
Objection!
It's probably just coincidence that they were both open at the same time.
Objection!
Now, it was no mere coincidence, I assure you. What was the window opened in lobby number 1? The answer to that is a certain person did something to cause the window to be opened. And the person who triggered that action, the person is a real guilty party. The real killer of this double murder is...
Take that!
Miss Castillo, you. I hereby formally indict you of the murder of Mr. Faraday and Mr. Rell.
What? What? You indict me? Are you serious, Miles? What do you think she's the killer?
I don't understand her motive just yet, but of course I'm serious. Because she is the only one who could have done it. Well, Miss Yu, do you still feel like laughing now?
Of course I do, Edgeworth.
My argument must not be tight enough yet.
Also, I never thought things would spiral into this. But I'll have you know, I'm enjoying this dance quite a bit. I guess this means it's time for my own rebuttal now, right?
Let's go!
You argue that the window was open. However, do you have proof it was I who did it?
You can immediately contradict that statement. Furthermore, do you have proof that the tape was used in the committing of the crime? Frankly, I'm shocked you going around accusing people of murder like this, especially with logic as full of holes as yours.